I recorded videos 3, 4, 5 times before editing them because I wasn't happy with the way I looked with something that I said at one point in the video. I don't do like live streams because God forbid something goes wrong. There's just a lot. I know I would be a lot more productive if I just didn't care as much.
Hi everyone and welcome. Today my guest is a friend, my friend Lara. Why did I invite Lara on my show? Lara is one of the most creative people I've ever met. She's Italian, she's an English teacher, she helps Italians learn English, and over the years she's created so many things, podcasts, YouTube videos, memberships, all by herself. She has no team. And she's the person who inspired me to build my own website. And in this conversation, we talked about creativity, how we approach the creative process, fear of rejection, perfectionism. Lara says she's a perfectionist, and she hates that. But I think it's also what's helping her putting out fantastic work, great quality work and products for an audience to help her people. Right now she has a course on YouTube. It's an 8-hour video that she made by herself. It took her 1 year to make that video. And Lara and I always talk about, our creative projects. We help each other. We give advice. We give tips to each other, and we support each other. I think that if you are creating something, if you are if you do things for other people and you're constantly putting out work for your people, well, maybe you need to have a friend that helps you. I hope this conversation will help you reflect on how you approach creativity in your creative process. Get ready now. It's story time. Welcome, Lara. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
For the second time.
It's nice to be here for the second time.
So Lara, you're a very creative person. Would you say that?
Fairly, yes.
How many things have you created in your life for the public, not for your boyfriend?
I would say a handful. Pretty proud of my portfolio. What's
the best thing that you've created?
So there's a couple things that I'm really proud of, but the thing that I would say I'm the most proud of is probably the podcast that I started about 4 years ago, 5 almost, because it started from nothing, and I was able to find my audience, and it's brought me a lot of happiness and joy, and I got a lot of satisfaction from doing it, even though I haven't posted in a long time. I think it's been over a year, so I've been taking quite the break. But yeah, I'm really happy with it. Sorry, I'm distracted by the cat.
Yeah, me too. But okay. I have a cat too. I don't mind at all. So you started creating this podcast from scratch. Like you had an idea. And you developed that idea. Tell us a little bit about this podcast. So, how did you come up with the idea? And let's start with that, because I think we can explore. There's a lot to explore about creativity and perfectionism, putting things out there, these kind of things. So, how did you start?
So, I think it was a hunch. And I think my best ideas are usually, they come from the gut. And I kind of have this feeling of, ooh, I think this might work. Whereas I've realized that when I try to plan something too much, sort of with like a marketing mind or strategy mind, that's when things just like, they fail miserably. Whereas for the podcast, I just felt like I had this idea of creating stories. And this came from my experience as a language learner, as an English learner, and an English language teacher. And I kind of wanted to combine all those experiences and create something that people could use to improve their language skills. And yeah, my favorite way of learning languages is through stories, be it from a book or TV series. And so I thought, okay, what if I write a series of short stories and make sure to include, let's say, 5 advanced expressions in each story. And then, yeah, I teach students these expressions this way, which is a lot more natural, a lot more fun, a lot more engaging. And people really resonated with that.
So you had this idea, and your stories, you wrote your stories all by yourself. Like you didn't, you created everything by yourself, the podcast, the introductions and everything. Were you afraid that maybe your idea or your project would not work at the beginning?
I had nothing to lose at the time. And I feel like I always, whenever I start a new project, I always, like, and at that time, I didn't even have an audience. Right now, I might be like, well, you know, it's about my reputation. People already know me. They have a certain standard. But in that case, nobody knew me. And, you know, if nobody listened to that podcast, well, who cares? I mean, it wasn't really going to affect me. So I wasn't going to let that fear stop me. And I think that has been sort of like something that that's always been within me. The fact that I'm more afraid of like staying where I am or than failing. And so whenever I have an idea or something, I'm like, well, you know, I might as well, because really, at the end of the day, there's not much to lose. Even if you do have a certain reputation or whatever, so what? People forget, you fail, and you get back up and you try with a different thing.
So would you say it's harder to create when you already have an audience? Or
I think so. I found, yes, I do feel the pressure once people get used to your content, and yeah, I feel like they do have certain expectations, and I feel like you should meet those expectations, or you should try. And so, yeah, I haven't been probably experimenting as much as I should have, because now I feel like, which is a good thing and a bad thing, because on the one hand, it's like, you know what works, but then on the other hand, you're like, well, but, you know, maybe I should get out of my comfort zone and try different things. Yeah, I think so.
And you had a big idea, like the podcast. Okay, the podcast was successful, and I'm amazed by your 8-hour video that you put on YouTube, which is a course for English language learners for Italians. Okay, but you created that thing in your room. There, probably, where you are now.
I was traveling at the time. It was even more challenging.
Oh, wow.
Okay. I didn't have a room.
In many rooms.
Yeah.
But you didn't know whether that thing would work or not, and it was like it was a huge investment in terms of time, energy. But to me, that's crazy, because okay, you're going to put so much time into this project, and without any, like, you don't have any idea whether this thing will be successful or not. You didn't ask people, do you think I should create this course? Or do you think this is what you want? Things like that. You just started creating, head down, for 1 year.
Yeah. That was 1 year of my life.
And the thing, it worked. Like, it really worked, because you've sold many of your courses. This thing on YouTube went viral. Can we say viral? Yeah, it was appreciated by many people.
Yeah.
Wasn't that a risk? Like a huge risk?
It was definitely a risk, but there are some ideas that you just believe in them so much that there's no stopping you. You don't worry about the consequences. And at the end of the day, I wasn't betting my money on it. I wasn't betting, anything that would have terrible consequences. It was just my time. And I was ready to invest my time and see, and at the end of the day, if it hadn't worked out, well, I would have wasted a year of my time. But, at the same time, you're learning as well. You're learning what works. You're learning what doesn't work. There's always a learning opportunity there. Although those were the ones that hurt the most. The ones that teach you the most are the ones that hurt the most. But yeah, I was never afraid. And I was always like I said, that also came from a hunch of this feeling of like, yeah, this might work. And I feel like those are the best ideas. And when you have one of those, you don't need to do market research or any of those things. Because if you deeply believe in something and you're not doing something just to sell money, because that wasn't my idea, that always came second. It was always my, obviously I wanted to be able to financially support myself, but that was never the main goal. Whenever you have that feeling of like, man, this could really work. This is a really good idea. And you are passionate about what you're creating. I do believe that things are going to work out because people are going to feel that and they're going to appreciate that. Obviously, you got to, make sure that when you create something, it's high quality and you're doing things well. You can't always be a good idea. You got to work on it. But yeah, I think that's what pushes you and kind of doesn't let you see all the possible dangers or all the possible risks that you might come across.
Wow. And what if that idea wouldn't have worked?
That's a good idea. I mean, that's a good question.
Yeah.
It is a good idea. That's a good question. I've asked myself that. I do remember saying, I think a year and a half ago or so, before launching my course, just like, this is it. This is the last thing that I'm going to work on. If it works, it works. And if it doesn't, then I don't know what I'm going to do. Like, I was ready to change careers, move to a different country. I was just like ready to change my life completely. So I don't know. Right now, this is what I said. What I remember saying and thinking clearly, if this isn't going to work, then there's no way for me to make money in this world. So I might as well look elsewhere. But I don't know. I guess we'll never know.
Yeah.
That's the reality of it. But maybe, who knows? Maybe I would have come up with another idea.
Yeah. It's interesting because you've never, you started creating on YouTube many years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And you've never stopped creating. Things, how many things would you say, okay, you've got the podcast, you've got this big course. What other things did you create?
So it started
for the public, always for people.
Right. It just started with, it was just random videos on YouTube, mostly to teach, but it was just what most people do, a video here and there. And then I wanted to create a full course, but divided into videos. That actually never saw the light because I moved to Spain then, and I sort of took a break from editing and all of that. And after that, I created a lot of resources. It wasn't for an audience, but it was for my students. So there was a lot of creativity that went into that. And then came the podcast. And after that, another course for another company this time. And that's after that, there were the other 2 courses that I created for myself.
Many things. Some of these things worked, some others didn't work.
Mm-hmm. Oh, right. There's also the membership. I try to start a membership.
Yeah, let's talk about the failures along, over these years. How many of these things didn't work?
So I think, well, obviously the YouTube videos at first, those were just like, I got no views. Well, there were a couple that did okay. The ones that had to do with grammar, those went okay. But yeah, it was definitely, it wasn't going anywhere. I knew that. I could feel that. I could see that. And my heart, I think, wasn't in it. But I think my biggest failure, and I remember just like crying over it, was when after the podcast, I thought, okay, since the podcast went great, maybe I could try to monetize it and I could create products that are along the lines of the podcast, but not quite like the podcast. And so I was planning on writing articles that had questions to teach vocabulary, and then to create videos for that. And man, I did no marketing research. And again, I think my problem there is that I never got that feeling of like, man, this is such a great idea. I was more like, okay, I got the podcast. How am I going to make it? How am I going to make this work? What can I do so that I can keep doing this for a living? And yeah, and so I did what I thought I was supposed to do, and that was a huge mistake. I spent a lot of time building something, and at that point, things weren't going well with my then employer. So I quit my job right when I was about to launch the membership. And when things started, I realized that it wasn't going to go well. That's when I started to panic, because I was like, okay, I've got no income now, and I'm not making any money from the membership. And I remember, because I set a price and then I decided to lower the price and see if that helped. But even with like the higher price, I was working way too much. And that's always my problem. I always overpromise, and I always say, I'm going to do all these things. And then when it's actually time to do it, because I'm a perfectionist, because I care about what I put out there, it's always way too much work for one person. And I was doing that with the membership as well. I had promised all this content, but it was a lot of work for one person. And so I lowered the price, but that didn't help. And it just got to a point where it was like, okay, fine. I give up. And I remember just setting every piece of content as free, like, that was it could be accessed for free. And painful. I just remember the pain that night of like sort of undoing. The work was still there, because I wasn't going to just delete everything, but it was painful. And yeah, that really hurt.
So you said you're a perfectionist. Now, before we talk about perfectionism, I wanted to ask you, do you think art should be monetized? Because all this time, all this energy that you put into your work, and it's creative work, because these are things, to me, creativity is, I've said this many times, it's making something, building something that wasn't there before, like a book, a course, a video, a podcast, whatever. Something that wasn't there before that you skillfully put together and show to your audience. So what was the question? Yeah. So do you think this should always be monetized? Like there should be a goal. The goal should be to make money. But you kind of answered this before, because you said that wasn't the goal.
No, I don't think necessarily. There's also, I don't know if I would define what I do as art.
I would.
Okay. I think, I don't know. When I think of art, I think of something that I think that is the difference. I think art is first and from, I don't know. I have to think this through. But maybe, I don't know. When I think of art, I think of people performing or people, but this is just more technical or maybe a little bit more, I don't know.
Okay, so
no,
art.
I wouldn't. I feel like, no, that'd be too much. I wouldn't consider what I write art or my videos as art. I can never, no. I don't think so. Why would you consider it art? What defines art and what defines a product? Well,
this is a great question. Art. So to me, art is the skillful use of creativity. So you use your skills. It might be like, why would a YouTube video not considered art, but a movie on Netflix would?
Okay, I think I know what my definition of art is. I think art is something that you would do regardless of whether people will see it or not. So if you like painting and you paint for yourself, regardless whether it's that painting's going to be sold or not, if you did it with the idea of like, I need to do this because I gotta get this thing out of me, then I feel like that's art. The same with singing. If you're singing and you're giving a performance because you just need to, that's one thing. But in my case, I don't think if there's no audience out there, I don't think I would be writing stories, or I don't think I would be making videos. So I think that's the way I see it, but I don't know. I've never thought about it, so.
I remember reading somewhere that a question, it was, would you still be making art if no one could see it? Mm-hmm. Like if you're the last person in the world, would you still paint?
And see, everything I do it with an audience in mind. Not maybe knowing if it's going to work or not, but I don't do it for myself. Maybe I would do other things for myself, like writing children's books is something that I do enjoy, and regardless of whether those books are going to come out or be published or not. But yeah, I feel like that's why I don't consider my things as art, because they're a little bit more calculated, It's not so much of like, there's too much, there's too much thought that goes into it.
But again, let's talk about my favorite movie, Braveheart. Okay. What's your favorite movie?
I don't know. I really like the Lord of the Rings, the third one.
Okay. So those movies, they were created for an audience, right? Mm-hmm. But to me, they're still
the books though were, because the movies are based on the books, and the books, I don't know what the intent was. I mean, there are writers that just write because they like writing, not necessarily because they want to sell their books. I don't know. Wait, does Braveheart? Because I know about the Lord of the Rings, but I don't know anything about Braveheart.
No, okay, but even books, like you're writing a book, and you're writing it for yourself, but also for other people. Like, I don't think authors, like big authors, they write for themselves only. They write for an audience. Like, the audience is there, and I don't think that if you have an audience, then your work couldn't be considered art. I think it's even more artful if you have an audience.
No, it's not about having an audience or not. I think it's a matter of like, are you writing thinking of your audience, with your audience in mind all the time, or not? I think that's the biggest difference.
Okay. So it's more like self-expression.
Yeah, what's your intent? When you're writing or painting or whatever.
Okay, let's leave it there.
Okay.
So it shouldn't be monetized all the time, we said, going back to that. No, perfectionism. We were talking about perfection. You said you're a perfectionist. Well, we all know what perfectionism is. Do you think that helps you or not?
No, not at all. I mean, obviously there's good aspects to that. You avoid or try to avoid making a lot of mistakes. You care more about the type of product that you put out there, but there's definitely more cons than pros to being a perfectionist. It just hinders you in so many ways.
For example, in your case,
I recorded videos 3, 4, 5 times before editing them because I wasn't happy with the way I looked with something that I said at one point in the video. I don't do like live streams because God forbid something goes wrong. There's just a lot. I know I would be a lot more productive if I just didn't care as much.
Yeah, that's why, in a way, I mean, your creations are way more, I don't want to say, better quality. Better quality. If someone sees one of your videos, one of your stories, if they listen to one of your podcasts, well, it's clear that you put in a lot of work, and the quality is great. But how sustainable is that? I mean, the positive aspect is that, wow, you ship fantastic work. Like, it's polished, is great. But on the other hand, how sustainable is it to edit a video or recording a video 5 times?
No, it's not sustainable at all. I hate it. I wish I wasn't like that. But I don't, and listen, I'm really happy with some of the episodes that I posted, but I'll tell you what, I can't bear to listen back to myself or watch old videos of me because I know that I'm gonna pick them apart and find every little thing that I would have done differently or that any mistakes that it takes away a lot of the joy from creating. And I'll tell you something else. I haven't posted in a long time. I haven't put out any episodes for the podcast in over a year because I feel like I set the standard, the bar so high. I'm afraid that my next episodes are not going to be as good because I feel like, what if I run out of ideas? What if, because it started with, okay, I'm just going to write a few stories. And then it turned into, each story has got to finish in a very surprising way. And so I kept raising the bar, and I'm at a point where the bar, I feel like it's so high that the energy that would have to go into writing a new episode would just be too much. And I'm afraid of feeling like a failure, disappointing my audience who hasn't listened to a new episode in over a year. And all of that is holding me back. And that sucks. I wish it wasn't like that. I wish I could just put something out like that and,
Yeah.
just not care about but I feel like, the problem with perfectionists, because when you're a perfectionist, or I feel like, I don't know, maybe there's different types of perfectionism, but I feel like I'm worried about what other people are going to think of me. So if I had to do a video for myself, I wouldn't care. It's only when I know that somebody else is going to judge it and pick it apart or make a comment on it, that's when that perfectionism kicks in. And I feel like it's obviously very closely related to probably not being confident enough with all of your insecurities. When you're not 100% confident, then obviously you're always afraid of what people might say about you or about your work.
Well, I appreciate the honesty and vulnerability, because, well, not many people would be willing to share these feelings. So thank you. And also, well, I can tell you, I don't think I'm that. I mean, I am a perfectionist, but not that much. Okay, I think we're all perfectionists in a way. We all want to. We all want things to be perfect, right? Yeah. But there is a point where you just have to let go and say, okay, that's it. I'm gonna release this thing, and I've done my best. It's never gonna be perfect, but this is why I don't rewatch my videos unless I need to edit something. I know that maybe, someone is at the door and I have to edit a specific point, but I tend not to rewatch my videos because of the same reason, because otherwise I would start, oh no, look, here I said, here, this is not clear. I said this, I should have said this. And you would spend 2 days for a 15-minute video. And the same with articles, with my writing.
But that's healthy. I think that's good and healthy, and I wish I could do that.
Why can you not do that?
I don't know. It's just the fear of being judged or being criticized. I couldn't take it. And it's not like, if I know that I made a mistake, or if someone points out that I made a mistake, that thing's going to haunt me for weeks. If not years. And I'm not even kidding. Like, it'll be something that'll wake me up in the middle of the night thinking, oh man, that one comment, he was right. I should have said that. And I can't live with that. I already have too much stuff going on in my head. I can't add on, any of these things. So I think that's why I'm trying to minimize the possible criticism that could come out of my content.
It hurts. It does. Because we all want to be liked and accepted. We're all part of a tribe. We used to live in tribes, and we all wanted to be part of, to be trusted by the tribe. But the problem is that it's maybe it was easier back in the days to be liked and accepted by 15 people, 20.
Right.
Now you put something out there, and there are potentially millions of people who could see your work. And
I remember when I posted my second course, and I was about to post it. It's a very long video on YouTube, and I assumed that quite a few people were going to watch it. And I remember I was so proud of all the work that I'd done. It was over a year worth of work. And yet I remember the day before crying because I didn't want to post it. And I was trying to think maybe I should not let people comment on it, because I was just so afraid of someone that might criticize me for using too much Italian or not explaining something the right way. And that sucks when you're so proud of something and you're afraid of putting it out there because you're afraid that random user 24A is going to say something who knows nothing about language teaching, and yet I know that's going to affect me a lot. And that's why there's also I've spoken to other creators, and I think you're one of them, who's like, well, just let them comment whatever they want, and just move on with your life, whatever. I can't do that. I literally, if I don't, I'm not talking about positive criticism, but I'm talking about rude comments or comments that come from people that know nothing about what they're writing. I physically need to delete those comments, because unless I do that, they're going to haunt me.
I see.
But yeah, I respect you for being able to engage with these people, but I'm not secure in myself enough, I guess, to do that, or I don't have that kind of energy, and I know it would suck a lot of my energy out of me, having to engage with these people, and so.
Well, I'm much smaller than you in terms of audience, and I've already seen that no matter what you say, no matter what you put out there, like you could have the best intention in the world, you will be criticized. Yeah. There will always be someone who's there to, even just for fun, like the haters. We call them haters, right? Mm-hmm. Right?
Oh yeah, they just do it.
So they're just there to nag you, and they want to make you feel small, and they want to embarrass you in front of everybody. So I'm like, well, I've done. I mean, this is how I approach the thing, but I don't have a huge audience like you have. So I don't know.
I don't think that really matters. I don't think it's a matter of the size of your audience. I think it,
But I received some, not hateful comments, but some comments, and I'm like, why are you saying this? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, it does. Like, you could receive 100 positive comments and then one that, the negative criticism, like harsh criticism, and you will still, you think about that. But we should, I mean, it's easy to say, but
I don't think...
That's why, let's talk about what Seth Godin said. He said that he doesn't read the reviews. Like, he's written 21 bestsellers. He said, I don't read the reviews because when I get a 1-star review, it means that my book was not for that person. And it's okay. It's okay. So there are plenty of people who trust my work, and I am for those people. In a way, this could help. But on the other hand, I think, well, but you could also, you're not taking the opportunity maybe to improve your work. But a 1-star review that says this book is shit, well, thank you. What could I do with that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. What were you about to say?
No.
Nothing.
No. Yeah, I forget what I was saying, but yeah, I agree with what Seth Godin said. It's probably but I also think there's a difference between people that are just writing something negative because they generally did not like what they've seen or they've watched, and people that are just commenting negative things just because they get something out of it in terms of like, I don't know, they get a kick out of it. I don't know. It's two different types of individuals. But yeah, there have been many times when I was like, I just wish I could. And this is something that I actually enjoyed about the podcast, the fact that there was no feedback. Like, I knew that people liked it because the number of listeners increased, but they couldn't comment on it. And so I felt very secure. And this is probably why I shared so much about my life on that podcast, because that there's someone out there, and there's someone out there that appreciates it, but you don't, obviously there's reviews and stuff, but it's not that common for people to rate a podcast, especially Spotify at the time didn't even have reviews, or ratings, so they couldn't even like give you a grade or a rating. And that's what I think that was really nice. And I sometimes wish I could just delete the comment section on YouTube, and I would just, in that way, I would feel a lot less afraid.
You could turn off the comments.
I know I could, but then on the other hand, I feel like I'm shutting down a lot of the people that would like to interact with me for good and genuine reasons, and I do want those people to reach out and be able to ask a question if they want to. So This is what sucks. And this is what I don't like about YouTube. The fact that they don't let you block a user. Because I feel like, on Instagram, if someone doesn't appreciate your work, you're like, okay, whatever. Like, you don't have to be here. Just like block. You don't have to see my face ever again if you don't want to. But with YouTube, you can't do that. So.
Well, as I said, you'll never know what people will like, what people will criticize, and that's why sometimes I'm like, well, whatever. I don't want to, as long as I don't offend anyone, because I don't want to offend people. I don't want to say, look at this stupid idiot here. Look what he said. Because there are many creators who directly, like, they criticize it's just a way to spread negativity, which, we don't need more of that. So as long as I don't do that, I'm okay. I didn't offend anyone. But sometimes they're like, you said this. So I remember a big podcaster. I talked to him, Look from the Look English podcast. He said that it was because he was in a position of power, let's say, because he has a big audience. People were criticizing him because he didn't talk about the war in Ukraine, and he should have stood. There's always, even if you don't do anything, automatically you should have done this. Why are you not doing this? And I'm like, when I say that I'm vegan, for example, I say, why are you vegan? I don't say explicitly, I'm a vegan. No, if the thing come up, I say, I'm a vegan. And they ask me normally, why? And I say, because I don't want to eat animals. I think it's unfair. I have plenty of foods that I can eat, so I can leave animals out of my plate. And many people, they say, but what about the people, what about kids in Congo who are working in a mine? Are you not worried about those? So,
yeah.
And I'm like, well, of course, but what are you doing for those people? Like, I'm doing this thing for animals, okay, for example. What are you doing for those people? So why am I saying this? I don't know. Probably because whatever we say...
Because people are going to find a reason to criticize you no matter what.
Yeah. So the online world is huge, and you will be criticized, especially after this interview. Now people will come to your...
Bring it on. I'm not going to look at the comments anyway. It's not even my video, so I can just like...
but they will find you. They will find your channel.
Oh, no.
No.
Maybe just don't link it so that...
Okay. So, Lara, how do you stay motivated? We could talk a little bit about motivation to create, and like when things don't work. Well, probably we've already talked about this, but what advice would you give to people who are demotivated to create, to write, to film, to paint?
I think what helps me, and motivation is not my forte. I'm not disciplined at all. I go through periods in my life where I procrastinate a lot. I have a hard time getting out of bed even. So I'm not here as a guru or no sort of expert on the matter. But what helps me and what kind of fuels me is knowing what the purpose of my work is, and especially because of what I do, I teach people how to improve their English, and I know that every piece of content is going to help them get clarity or improve their language skills. And so that's how I motivate myself. So there's videos that maybe I don't feel like posting, but I do sort of feel like it's a kind of a social service in a way to post them. And I know it's going to help someone. And again, there's going to be lots of other people that are going to criticize me, but I know that someone's going to gain some sort of,
support,
insight from that.
Yeah.
And that's what fuels me. So I think just like keep in mind that there's somebody out there that's going to enjoy your work, and just do it for them.
I like this a lot. That's why I think your work is art, because it helps people. And I think art should help people. Like a beautiful photo, a beautiful movie. Maybe that's my definition of art. What was yours before you defined art?
It's just like an expression of, like a creative expression of something that you have within you, but you do it because you have to. Like you feel this need, not because you have an audience in mind. So the expression of something that you have within yourself that's not meant for anybody else to see.
Okay. And I would add the word helpful. I would tweak that definition for my definition of art.
Yeah.
Work that you put out there skillful work that you put out there to help another person. Yeah. We found our definition.
Yeah, I'm happy. Yeah.
Great.
I should do some thinking, but yeah. I stick with what I said. I do believe in my definition.
Cool. So your next creative project?
Well, there's I haven't decided yet. But I think I'm gonna do probably another course. I'm gonna launch another course. Again, teaching English through stories. So this is what it's been working, so
yeah,
why
double down on that?
Yeah.
Fantastic. So, well, good luck. Good luck with
Thank you.
all your creative projects. I'm sure that we'll see many more of those. And I will help you with those for sure, like you always help me with mine. And thank you, Lara.
Thank you.
It was a beautiful conversation about art. Insightful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening. Thank you for watching. If you're a writer and you want to improve your writing, or you want to keep improving your writing, consider joining my private email list, Better Writers. I send one short email every week. I share tips, insights, things that I learn, book recommendations to help you do one thing only: become a better writer. The link is in the show notes or in the description of this video. Thank you for listening once again. I'll see you in the next episode. Bye-bye.